What is up, duelists? Arts and Crafts here with your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action. Today's feature match, we've got Bubbles123 versus Lady Command Knight. I think at least Bubbles123 has been featured on this channel before, so good to see a familiar face here, duking it out still in the upper echelons of the Duelingbook GOAT format ladder. As always, both players are rated in the top 200 on the ladder at the time this game was played. Let's jump right into it. Looks like Bubbles won the rock, paper, scissors. Going to choose to go first. Going to lead it with a Thunder Dragon, so likely playing some sort of chaos strategy. Going to go grab a couple more copies of that T-Drag. Plus Pot of Greed there. Good to use your Thunder Dragon before your Pot of Greed in case you draw into additional copies of the Thunder Dragon, making it a whole lot worse. So proper sequencing here. And then they have Graceful Charity as well to immediately cash in those Thunder Dragons. So Chaos decks doing their thing, getting max value out of their Trinity pieces, as the deck is designed to do. It's a pretty commanding lead right out the gate for Bubbles. Going to discard double Thunder Dragon, Upstart Goblin as well to continue to dig deeper. They've seen so many cards in their deck so far, really thinning everything out between all the draw cards and the Thunder Dragons, and just, upping the consistency of the deck as it's designed to do. And then we're just going to lead out with set a monster, set a couple back row pass. Would not be surprised to see a Trap Dust Shoot come in hot here, considering they've seen so many cards so far. And we are going to see one, so we'll see what both players are rocking here. Looks like Lady Command Knight is on... Ooh, looks like they're running the Shinato version of the ritual sort of strategy. So pretty cool to see. Shinato being the boss monster here. When this card destroys a defense position monster and sends it to the graveyard as a result of battle, inflict damage to your opponent's life points equal to the original attack of the destroyed monster. So it's just a big beater that can also deal damage into defense position monsters. And it's a light in case they're playing, Chaos, which is pretty standard in these ritual sort of strategies. And then you see standard cards. You've got the ritual spell for Shinato, Mirror Force, Dust Shoot of their own, Brain Control, which is pretty nice when you're playing ritual cards because you can tribute your opponent's monsters for your rituals. And then Manju, of course, is kind of the glue that holds together most of these ritual strategies. Bubbles here, looks like they're just playing standard Chaos Turbo, unless they've got some Goats Metamorphosis stuff somewhere in there, but we haven't seen that yet. Decent hand here, though. A lot of good limited or semi-limited cards. Nothing really to complain about, especially after this super strong start, of course. But if you're Bubbles, you probably just send back the Manju. Like I said, kind of the glue that holds the deck together. And they don't really have any other plays, or at least aggressive plays, if you send back the Manju. So, gonna expect to see that one. Spun back, and we do. And now we will allow Lady Command Knight to proceed with the turn. It's gonna set some back row pass. Likely gonna see this Dust Shoot come in. Yep, as we do, we'll see Bubbles. Looks like they drew Upstart Goblin for turn, so... Pretty good card when you know your opponent has Dust Shoot, because that's just an unknown card, of course. But this Knight Assailant is going to get spun back, so a potential discard fodder for stuff will be removed for now. But you're probably fine with that if you're Bubbles. Knight Assailant probably not doing too much here at the moment. Yeah, and Dust Shoot's going to spin back, the only option. Going to see Bubbles fire off that Upstart Goblin to go replace it. And now we'll get into the meat and potatoes. We're going to flip summon Sangan. So not a real set here. So Lady Command Knight not having any set monster interaction ends up being kind of fine here. Sangan, of course, you would have liked to knock that knowing what was in Bubbles' hand. But now you got to face down 1,000 damage a turn. Terrifying stuff. But it is a clock. It is pressure. So Bubbles here off to a little bit of a lead in terms of tempo. Going to add a back row pass. A lot of stuff to be worried about. I mean, most likely it's that Mirror Force. We haven't seen the other set card, so it could very well be a non-chainable. Or it could be like Bluff Set Heavy Storm. Could be kind of cute here. Lady Knight's just going to draw, set a back row pass. Bubbles can continue to apply pressure with the Sangan, knowing that nothing is in the way. You can see, 1,000 damage a turn isn't the scariest thing, but it is something, and it's, when you're playing a more controlling deck, especially in this matchup, if you're playing Turbo against the more aggressive, like, Ritual decks, being able to just apply pressure and forcing your opponent to do something and commit something to the board can often be kind of valuable, because then you can get more value out of your cards, because a lot of your cards are sometimes more reactionary. Lady Command Knight top decks the Delinquent Duo, knowing there's some juicy stuff in hand to snag here, so pretty happy with that top deck, and we'll try to equalize some of the card advantage disparity we've seen so far. Bubbles, I think, is up 2 cards, right, from the pot, plus the Thunder Dragon Graceful combo. So Duo ripping out 2 cards is going to equalize that a little bit, still be somewhat behind. Going to hit a Nobleman of Crossout, which isn't the best card into these ritual decks, so if you're Bubbles, you're pretty happy with that, I think. And they get to discard the worst card in their hand, which they decide is a Tribe Infecting Virus, which was a new card that was seen, but, you know, not super great when your opponent isn't playing any monsters, of course, so ditching that definitely makes sense. We know we haven't seen Snatch Steal, we haven't seen Heavy Storm, we haven't seen that Mirror Force that we think is set. But no play here from Lady Command Knight. That early Dust Shoot really just kind of ripping out the one monster they had in hand, getting in the way of all the stuff they could be doing. You know, we know they have BrainCon in hand or set on the field. Sangan, of course, and not a very good BrainCon target, because if you tribute it, Bubbles will get the search off of it. So waiting until they have a better target to use that, but unfortunately Bubbles with the Dust Shoot early knows that the BrainCon is in hand, so it can play around it pretty effectively. We're just gonna, you know, nothing to force him to stop just attacking with the Sangan. And Lady Command Knight is dropped down to 6,000, so everything going according to plan here for Bubbles so far. Lady Command Knight drew Thunder Dragon for turn. So going to thin the deck a little bit, but still not really anything to play. So not the best draw, not the worst draw. Bubbles can just continue to apply pressure with the Sangan, doing tons and tons of work this game. Lady Command Knight has gone from 10,000 down to 5,000. Gonna add a back row pass. Okay, we've got dueling Sangans here. Love it. Lady Command Knight using their normal summon on the level 3 critter. Are we just gonna wall out here? Are we gonna crash? You gotta think, playing the more aggressive deck here, you'd rather get your search off if you're Lady Command Knight instead of just trying to wall out here. No chaos really to worry about for either player just yet. Although if you do crash them, of course, there is an issue with that. For, you know, that'll enable the Dark and Gray for both players. But, you know, the most efficient answer to Sangan is generally Sork Banish, unless you're running like DD Warrior Lady and stuff, but Turbo decks generally don't do that. So you could sit back on here if you want, but I like getting aggressive here when you're kind of the beatdown deck in the matchup. And we're going to see the Sangan crash. Lady Command Knight generally has to search first, I think. But Bubbles is just going to go ahead and grab that Sinister Serpent, which is the standard grab there if you don't already have it. Lady Command Knight, though, is just going to go and grab that Manju that got spun back by Dust Shoot turn 1. And now they'll have at least a little bit of offense to mount here, although it's pretty late in the game. Might be a little too late, but such is the power of Trap Dust Shoot, really. Bubbles here, Jar of Greed, thin the deck a little bit further. Set a monster, set a back row pass, so just keeping up the defense, playing the card advantage game. But Lady Command Knight has a lot of cards of their own to maybe try and force a way through this. I'm going to go normal summon Manju after setting a back row, kind of interesting sequencing there. But they will go and grab another copy of Shinato of a higher plane. I guess we knew the hand was Shinato plus Shinato's Arc. And so it looks like they had one more copy of something in the deck to search with Manju, potentially. And that was Shinato number 2. We're just going to go ahead and attack that set monster. It is Gravekeeper's Spy. Quite a good card against these more aggressive decks. Can just wall out things pretty much indefinitely. And Bubbles has another copy in deck to summon. And so this is just going to be really, really tough for Command Knight to really do anything against. Pass turn there. Bubbles pretty much stabilized. It's going to pass. Only has to deal 4,400 damage thanks to all the great work their Sangan did throughout the course of the game. Lady Command Knight does have the Tribe Infecting Virus, though, which is pretty solid. Pretty clean way to clear out of the spies. There is a lot of back row here to deal with, though, so I would not be surprised if this tribe got intercepted. Gonna use Prio, discarding that Thunder Dragon that we knew was in hand to pop those spies. But we're just gonna send a Torrential Tribute there to wipe the entire board, getting a little bit of value there. You know your spies are going to die anyway, so you're not too worried about that. And then Tribute's just going to pop the Tribe and the Manju, which is pretty solid. Now, Lady Command Knight, if they wanted to, it's kind of an interesting choice, right? Because Torrential is a card that sometimes you need to play around with Tribe, in which case you can choose not to use Prio, so that way you don't have to discard a card to it before they chain Torrential. But then you lose the opportunity to or that gets punished by stuff like Ring of Destruction, Book of Moon, things like that. So you kind of have to pick your poison of which you want to play around. Choosing not to play around Torrential here, getting punished for it. But for all we know, Bubbles has something like Ring set as well. In which case, doesn't really matter. Yeah, Torrential's going to come through, wipe the board. Now, spies are dealt with, though, but Lady Command Knight has no normal summon for the turn, so just going to have to pass here. Bubble's going to go set another monster pass. Both players just kind of churning through their decks here. Normal summon Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer from Lady Command Knight. Okay. Pretty cool card. Turns off potential chaos, although that was live already and we didn't see it come down. Kaigu's going to go ahead and attack the set monster, but we've got that known Mirror Force coming through. At some point, you just got to run something into it unless you want to wait for an MST or something, so happens to the best of us. We're going to get main phase 2 Raigeki Break, discarding that second Thunder Dragon to pop the set monster, and that was a Dekoichi, okay? So probably very worried about Set Magician of Faith. Of course, there's lots of really good things to grab here. There's Sinister in hand as well to get max value out of a recurred Graceful Charity. So I can understand being worried about the Faith, and you did have solid discard fodder for the Raigeki Break, so you're not losing too much out of this. And you did hit something real, right? You hit a Dekoichi, so not a terrible play. Bubbles here just going to go ahead and normal summon Breaker the Magical Warrior. Oh. So, yeah, I think we knew about the Mirror Force, right? But the Torrential is going to come down, pop that Breaker, protect the Mirror Force, so both players' Torrential is getting used here in quick succession, preventing anyone from accumulating any sort of board state so far. But lots of cards left in the chamber for both players, and now they know they don't have to worry about Torrential at the very least. Bubbles, unfortunately, will know about this Mirror Force because of the misclick from Lady Command Knight, but it is what it is, and I think they knew about Mirror Force anyway from the Dust Shoot forever ago. Yeah. Bubbles confirming that, of course. Lady Command Knight, we've got normal summon Senju of the Thousand Hands, so it looks like they're on double ritual, enablers here. Difference being Manju is a little bit better. It can search both a ritual monster or a ritual spell, whereas Senju can only search the monster, which is why most decks, they'll max out on Manjus before they start to play any number of Senju. Stats are identical, right? So, but yeah, the worst copy is going to hit the board here. Looks like they're running triple Shinato, though. A little bit spicy. And now they can start mounting an offense here, so able to kind of pick their way through most of Bubble's interactions so far. Board is clear thanks to their own Torrential Tribute, and they can start applying a little bit of pressure. So things are turning around for Lady Command Knight, but still a long way to go before they can close out this game. And we know that they've got what? Triple Shinato, a Shinato's Arc, and a Brain Control in hand. So Bubbles really just have to play around the Brain Control, not let a Shinato hit the board, and otherwise you're kind of fine. Yeah, and we're just going to go set a monster, set a back row pass. Any monster in, any set monster, of course, plays around Brain Control because it can only target face-up mons. And we've got another Trap Dust Shoot coming in here, so we'll see what both players have kind of accumulated over the last several turns. Yeah, so the only unknown in hand here is that Cyber Jar, which I expect will be what is spun back here. Kind of an interesting card to see in this ritual deck, but I guess it's a good way to get a bunch of monsters on board for free to then tribute for rituals. And then Bubbles here, they're on the Wind Blast version of Chaos Turbo, which you don't always see. So they've found the Knight of Sound that got spun back a while ago, and another copy of Nobleman of Crossout. Otherwise, known Heavy, known Snatch Steal still sticking around. And if you're Bubbles, yeah, you probably just spin back that Cyber Jar. That's what we'll see. And now you know your opponent really doesn't have too much going on in their hand. Manju will just go ahead, or Senju, sorry, will go ahead and attack that set monster. It is just the Serpent, which we, I guess, should have known about, right? Because we knew Serpent was in hand. So just stymieing the aggression there. Really good card against these aggro decks. Just to block damage every turn, basically for free. Or at least for the cost of your normal summon. Bulbous can recur that card. We've got Draw Phase, or Standby Phase. Wind Blast on the Serpent, bouncing the back row. Summon BLS, go for game. There you go. Yep. So kind of a long, drawn-out game there, but Bubbles, I don't think, was really ever under any real pressure. So just kind of waiting to draw the BLS and close out the game. I guess they must have top decked it there, but it was just kind of a matter of time. And game one goes to Turbo here in this Turbo versus Shinato Ritual matchup. Game two, though, Lady Command Knight will get to go first. Definitely favors the more aggressive deck in the matchup, so we'll see if they're able to use that sort of tempo advantage to their advantage here. And leading out the duo is quite a good start to get out to an early card advantage lead. Or maybe not. They hit a Night Assailant. Ooh, but Bubbles does not have a flip monster to discard to it, so duo getting full value here. Hitting the Night Assailant, and then Bubbles discarding a King Tiger Wanghu, which is not always a card you see in Chaos Turbo. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is pretty good against these Chaos lists, or these Ritual lists, right? Because it deals with the Manjus and the Senjus basically for free. Yeah, Wanghu's going to hit the grave. We're going to see a Manju get summoned out, grab a Shinato, set a back row to protect it, pass, and things are going according to plan here for Lady Command Knight. Applying pressure, getting a little bit of card advantage thanks to duo. Bubbles, how can you respond here on the back foot? Going to go duo of their own to equalize the card advantage a little bit. Of course, one of the advantages of these ritual decks is they end up with a lot of like fake floated cards in hand, like these ritual monsters that they summon that they can grab basically for free off of their Manjus and Senjus. So a little bit more insulated against duo than a typical deck in the format, which is one of its advantages. They had a Mudora. Oh, so this is just like fairy ritual stuff, I guess. Kind of cool. And all right. Mudora hits the grave, and we're going to discard a Shinato, or the Shinato that we knew about. So Manju kind of doing its job to protect against duo a little bit, but I'm sure you'd rather have those cards in hand, of course. And Bubbles is going to go normal summon breaker. Set is Torrential Tribute, though, which unfortunately is going to blow up your own Manju, but the alternative was you just get plus to death by this breaker. So you got to make this play. And what was a good start for Lady Command Knight has been pretty much nullified here. Bubbles does have the Thunder Dragon plus a back row, so you do know they don't have too much going on, depending what this back row is. So simplified game state kind of favors the beatdown deck. Could be an opportunity for Lady Command Knight to mount some more pressure here. Gonna go ahead, summon Breaker of their own. Quite a good card. We're going to see that pop that back row. It is just a Jar of Greed, so Bubbles will be able to dig a little bit further in the deck, but everything is open for Breaker to get in for 1600, which we'll see. And we're going to set a back row pass here, applying pressure as the deck likes to do. Bubbles, we'll see if we drew anything for turn or off of that Jar of Greed. Just going to set a back row pass. The Thunder Dragon's just kind of rotting in hand right now. One of the downsides of playing T-Drag. Of course, if you're unable to cash them in, they don't kind of do much on their own. And Breaker's just going to hit in for 1600 again. And this is a real clock, right? Thunder Dragon out of Lady Command Knight as well to thin the deck a little bit more. Get a little bit of those other, fake cards like I was talking about in their hand. And we're just going to pass turn. Bubbles facing down this Breaker. Going to have to fire out the Swords. Pretty good card in the matchup. Just allow you to stabilize. Lady Command Knight really wants to see some spell or trap card removal here if they have it. We're just going to go ahead and normal summon a Manju, though. Search out another Shinato. And we're just going to pass here. No answer to Swords. First turn ticks down. Bubbles, safe behind their Swords of Revealing Light for now. Just going to slam down a Blackluster Soldier, though. Light and Grave thanks to that Thunder Dragon the other turn. And this will start really, protected by the Swords. Protected by a potential back row, this will really start eating away at Command Knight's board. You don't have Torrential to worry about, which could, is one of the easiest answers to this. So, pretty happy to just slam it and start plussing. We'll banish that Breaker. Yep, makes sense. Prevent Dark from hitting the grave in case they're running any sort of Chaos monsters, which we haven't seen out of Lady Command Knight, but they're running Thunder Dragon, so you got to think that they are probably playing at least Blackluster Soldier. Ooh, Tribe Infecting Virus out of Lady Command Knight is pretty solid here as a good answer to BLS. Just has to make sure that this back row isn't anything real. No negate. So we're going to use Prio here. Not playing around Torrential, I think, is probably the move here because you just want to make sure you get rid of this Blackluster Soldier no matter what. And you have the Thunder Dragons to discard to it anyway, so even if Torrential comes through here, you're not super unhappy about it. But yeah, Tribe effect is just going to resolve, popping that BLS, and now it's just the swords between you and your opponent's life points. Gonna have to pass, but you only got one more turn under the swords, and you're applying a lot of pressure, and you've dealt with the best card in Bubbles' deck, so pretty happy with that if you're Lady Command Knight. Bulbous here still has the double T-Dragon hand. Ooh, does have the Sork to follow up here. BLS, of course, being a light, getting them another one in grave, but they had the Thunder Dragons to discard for it if they needed to anyway. And Sork is just going to go ahead and banish that Tribe Infecting Virus, which makes total sense. That's the answer to your Sork. And now, Lady Command Knight, you had the Tribe to answer the BLS, but can you answer his little brother? Let's see. Snatch Steal is definitely an answer. Just going to use it to banish itself. Okay, a little bit conservative there. I guess kind of makes sense. You can't use it to attack this turn anyway, so you'd rather just get the free plus from swords running out and, you know, just kind of keep your opponent's best cards off their board. I think that makes total sense. Set a back row pass there. And we've got Trap Dust Shoot right in time for Bubbles to draw into 4 cards, which is quite solid. We'll see what they're rocking here. We knew about the double Thunder Dragon. We see Tsukiyomi, which can deal with the Manju. But Manju already kind of plussed by grabbing a Shinato, so it's not the end of the world. Heavy Storm is now known as well, which is interesting to play around. Yeah, and if you're Lady Command Knight, you're just going to send back that Tsukiyomi and keep your Manju on the board here, applying pressure. Yeah, so Suk will get spun back. And now you just know about heavy double T-Drag. And now you can probably start applying some pressure here with your Manjus. Get in for 1400. Ooh, Sakuretsu armor. Okay. So that does nullify the pressure for a turn, which you're happy about if you're Lady Command Knight, or if you're happy about if you're Bubbles. But it's kind of an unfavorable trade, right? Because the Manju was able to float, grab the Shinato, so you're actually going negative in card advantage by Sakuretsuing the Manju, which is kind of what these ritual decks are based around, right? It's really hard to efficiently deal with the Manjus and the Senjus, even though their stats aren't particularly strong. They're just like annoying to deal with profitably. And so now Lady Command Knight essentially pluses off of that interaction. Just going to pass, though. Not using the normal summon. Not wanting to just put a monster out there for Bubbles to deal with. Draw a pass from Bubbles, so opening here for Lady Command Knight to get in for some damage. Jar agreed to dig for some action. Just going to set a back row pass, though, so both players kind of getting a little jumbled up here. We know one Thunder Dragon in Lady Command Knight's hand is kind of not doing too much, but really wishing that they drew some monsters here, I'm betting, to take advantage of this lapse in defense from Bubbles. And now they found a set monster. If that's something like Gravekeeper's Spy, it's going to feel really bad. We do have the Nobleman of Cross out here for Lady Command Knight, though. Haven't seen one so far this game, so makes sense that they have it, having churned through almost half their deck at this point. That's going to banish a Knight Assailant. Okay, so both Knight Assailants gone. And you're not super upset about that. If you're Bubbles, probably, but this does open the board for Lady Command Knight. Unfortunately, no monsters here again, though, so bricking a little bit here, and that favors the controlling player in the matchup for sure. I'm going to go set a back row pass. Lady Command Knight. Just going to draw pass, yeah. You got to think their window is slipping away every turn they don't do anything here. Bubbles has another set monster here. One knock already gone, so less likely that Lady Command Knight can deal with it. Raigeki Break, discard Dark Magician of Chaos, so a little bit of spice here, but potentially setting up for a Call of the Haunted or a Premature Burial. We're going to Raigeki Break to pop the back row, which is a Ring of Destruction. Okay, so getting the value there. And clearing the board for a potential play here. Yeah, and they have their Premature Burial to revive the Dark Magician of Chaos. And that'll trigger the Enter the Battlefield effect. You can grab Knock here, which is the safe play. You can grab Duo here, which is kind of cool, although, you know, double T-Drag in Bubbles' hand, so 50% chance you don't even hit a real card, so you're probably not grabbing Duo here. Yeah, so let's just grab the Knock, use it, and start getting in for some damage. You banish a Gravekeeper's Spy, which is a huge target to hit here. Gonna get rid of all the rest of the spies in Bubbles' deck. And now we've got Shinato's Arc tributing the Demok for Shinato hitting the board. And we're going to attack in for 3,300. The boss monster has hit the field. It's representing lethal next turn. You hit him down to 500. Oof. There you go. The deck doing what it's supposed to do. And Bubbles, yeah, you had a couple turns to find some defense, but Lady Command Knight was just accumulating all of the cards they needed for this final push. Makes you think, though, if you can deal with the Shinato here, you might be in a solid position, but you're sitting on only 500 life points, so you got to close out the game quick if you're able to deal with this. Heavy Storm here, which was known by Lady Command Knight, so setting a chainable into it makes total sense. Flipping down that Shinato, so protecting it from potential Snatch Steal. It's going to set a back row pass, and this could be a game here. Lady Command Knight, flip summon Shinato, get in for 3,300, and it's Mirror Force to stymie that, so Bubbles hanging on for now, but only on 500 life points. Can you turn the corner here? Set a back row pass. Still those double Thunder Dragons just rotting in hand, doing absolutely nothing. Lady Command Knight, no monster here, so potential window here for Bubbles to stabilize. Trap Dust Shoot here, knowing that there are 4 cards, and man, these Thunder Dragons are just allowing Lady Command Knight to continuously get these Dust Shoot activations off. And you can hit a Chaos Sorcerer. I mean, it wasn't live, but just spinning it back and reducing your opponent's cards is really strong. You see the Sakuretsu armor that they drew for turn, but yeah, Sword gets sent back. And now you know you can play around the Sakuretsu armor with stuff like MST, potentially, probably Heavy Storm still in your deck. Saku gets set there. Lady Command Knight, still no monsters. Both players just in top deck mode here. Got Dust Tornado on the known Sakuretsu armor. We're going to normal summon a Mudora, which is a pretty big monster, honestly, although base stats are enough to get in for damage here. We got Torrential Tribute to deal with it, though, so Bubbles having the reactive trap cards to deal with this, pretty solid. Just going to pass turn. Bubbles has the upstart to dig a little bit further into the deck, needs to find some interaction. Graceful, wow. Finally finding a Trinity piece that isn't duo. And now they can cash in their Thunder Dragons, and looks like that Torrential might have just been just enough for Bubbles to turn the corner here. Going to discard likely those Thunder Dragons. And they've got King Tiger, which is huge against their opponent, although doesn't deal with Mudora specifically. But King Tiger can start getting in for damage every turn. And now, Lady Command Knight, you're down 2 actual cards here. Your opponent has a clock, and have you just run out of resources? We know 1 Thunder Dragon in hand, so just kind of not doing anything. You only have 500 damage to punch through. Probably you have Ring in your deck, but can you find it before this Wongu kills you? It's going to set a back row pass. Bubbles gets in with that King Tiger again. And now they're the one with the clock. Set monster as well. Oof, that upstart into Graceful really just turning things around. We got set a monster. Nobleman of Crossout on the face down. Hitting into Koichi, so not too bad. Getting a little bit of value there. Just going to pass, though. Bubbles here. Set a back row. Going to crash into this King Tiger. It is just a Senju. Of course, you can't normal summon it because it just would have gotten popped by the King Tiger. So Lady Command Knight just purely on defense mode. This King Tiger doing a ton of work against them. Continuing to apply the pressure. Just back over here for Command Knight pass. King Tiger gets in again. No, we got Ring of Destruction for game. Is that it? And there you go. Okay, so Lady Command Knight luckily able to find that Ring of Destruction. Probably one of their few outs left in the deck. And dealing with the King Tiger before it's able to kill them. And wow, really close game. Got to see some of the cool plays that this deck is built to do for Lady Command Knight. You know, you had discard Demok into Premature Burial, into Shinato's Arc to summon Shinato for 3,300 damage attack. You saw Mudora hit the game late with a big attack bonus here. And then finding the ring, a little bit of reach here for the beatdown deck to close out the game. And we're going to go to game 3 here in this Turbo versus, I guess this is like Shinato Fairy aggro. Pretty cool deck. Love to see it here. Up in the top rated spots on the ladder. And excited for this game 3 and what has been a really back and forth match here. Bubbles, no Trinity to start out here. So Turbo not doing Turbo things just yet. Just going to set a monster pass, and Lady Command Knight could, if they have a knock in hand, plus a Manju or Senju, could really start taking over the tempo here. Going to lead out with a Thunder Dragon, just to thin the deck a little bit. I guess the idea is Thunder Dragon is a 1-card way to get enough levels to tribute some or ritual summon Shinato, because we haven't seen any chaos cards out of them. I mean, they could be running BLS and we just haven't seen it at all, but it seems like it's mostly just used to get a bunch of levels in hand for Shinato's arc. Pot of Greed here to draw a little bit deeper into the deck. Into Graceful with the T-Drags in hand, discard those. And Lady Command Knight said, well, you did this to me in game 1. I'm going to do the same exact thing to you here. Nobleman of Crosshead here to banish the Spy. Huge, huge turn. Into the Sangan to apply pressure. Right, so this is almost a perfect first turn out of Lady Command Knight. Getting the T-Drag plus Pot plus Graceful plus Nobleman plus a monster to apply pressure. This is exactly what this deck is designed to do. And Bubbles really on the back foot here. Down some cards. Down board presence. Down tempo. Your Spies are gone. Really not looking good, but you're not out of it yet. Still early goings, of course. Duo here to kind of even things up. You know the T-Drags are gone, so likely to hit something real here. Hits a Breaker, which is a really strong card to hit. And then Lady Command Knight's going to discard Raigeki Break. Quite worse when you don't have a lot of cards in hand. So seeing that hit the grave makes sense. Bulbous has the swords here to stymie this aggression, which is really solid. A lot safer now that you know Breaker is gone as well. Just running out the swords here into potential Breaker could just be a huge beating if Bubbles was just able to apply, 2,600 damage. Or points of damage in a single turn with that. But Breaker being gone thanks to the duo, you're a little bit more secure here if you're Bubbles. Yeah, and Lady Command Knight, just going to wait out this sword, Sangan to defense, set a back row pass. Bubbles just going to pass here, hiding behind the swords. We got Raigeki Break to pop the swords. This card is on Byra, which is cute. I guess this deck does have some issues getting over Spies, so playing Zambira makes sense from that perspective to at least clear out one. Now, doing that when you only have the Sangan, I mean, it is a real clock here, and I understand trying to get aggressive. And, your opponent hasn't really played much else, so maybe they have some sort of bricky hand here. So, I appreciate the pressure application. I'm sure they just feel really bad that they don't have Breaker here to continue to aid them. And now you're down a bunch of cards, right, having used a Raigeki Break. So Bubbles, opportunity to stabilize here, even though that Swords is gone. It's going to set a monster, set a back row pass. Most monsters in the deck are totally able to wall out the Sangan, Dekoichi being probably the main one here, even though the Spies are gone. Command Knight. Ooh, okay. So we're going to set a back row. We're going to slam out the BLS. So it was in the deck somewhere. We just hadn't seen it. Thunder Dragon's getting the value here, getting those lights engrave. I'm going to slam out that BLS, banish the set. But we have Torrential Tribute to clear the board, which both players had Sangan, so kind of a wash there. So you're basically just trading Tribute for Blackluster Soldier. You're getting your Dark Engrave if you're Bubbles. So really well-timed Torrential here to stymie this play from Lady Command Knight. Both players will get that Sangan search off, but you're happy with this if you're Bubbles. You can grab that Sinister Serpent, and then Manju out here for Lady Command Knight. I'm just going to go ahead and normal summon that. We are still in main phase 1. Battle phase has not happened yet, so able to apply pressure here by making these plays in main phase 1, which is a silver lining here for Lady Command Knight. The Manju effect will go grab a copy of Shinato, and we can get in for 1,400, drop Bubbles all the way down to 36. And you got a lot of cards, but you're under pressure here, and you got to figure out a way to deal with this before you just run out of life. Bubbles has the Heavy Storm to clear out the back row. Going to chain a Jar Greed, though, so not a plus there. They did hit a Sakuretsu Armor, but now Bubbles has Thunder Dragon, and you got to think, okay, setting up Chaos. We could see a BLS or something hit the board here. Grab those Thunder Dragons real quick. And then, we just have Tribe, discard Serpent, which they searched off the Sangan. Obviously quite good when you've got Tribe here for the free discards. And it's a free way to deal with these Manjus and stuff, so... And now Tribe effect. We'll clear out the Manju, get in for 16. And Bubble is making a big play here to potentially stabilize. Here at 3,600 life points, which, importantly, as we saw last game, is out of Ring of Destruction range. So, we'll see if Lady Command Knight can do anything to kind of swing the pendulum back in their favor. Gonna get normal summon Kaiku, which is quite strong. That will go ahead and kill that tribe, but we've got the Sakuretsu Armor here. Really efficient way of dealing with these Kaikus that don't really do anything besides attack for the most part. And that was a nice opening for Lady Command Knight, but the Sakuretsu in the side deck coming in clutch here for Bubbles. Just gonna have to set a back row pass. Normal summon used, of course, already that turn. Bubbles can re-grab that Sinister Serpent. Tribe can get in for 16. Now we can set a monster pass. Lady Command Knight, a lot of stuff to deal with here. They do have the Tribe, or they do have the Zombira the Dark here to come in, which can beat over the Tribe Infecting Virus. Drop them down to 3,100. So getting a little bit of value out of their Zombira there. Nobleman of Crossout here, number 2 for the game to deal with the set monster. And that was the Sinister. Okay, so that's pretty good because that is one of the major walls, or pretty much the 2 major walls of the deck being gone here, right? Spy being the best one, already getting hit by knocked. Sinister being kind of the backup, block a monster each turn. And it's really good into Zombira specifically because it'll just get weaker every turn that it tries to kill a Sinister. So knowing now that your Zombira will not be attacking into a Sinister Serpent or not attacking into a Sangan is super valuable for Lady Command Knight. So high value Nobleman of Crossout here. Zombira, of course, unable to apply pressure directly to the opponent's life points, but it is good at clearing the way for the other aggressive monsters that we know they are running. It's going to add a back row pass here. Bubbles, we've got Tsukuyomi. That's going to get a free plus here thanks to this Torrential Tribute out of Lady Command Knight. But Lady Command Knight clearing the board for potential monsters here. Ooh, Sork's going to come down, though. And that'll be a pretty big wall. Unless they just run straight into a Mirror Force, which they're not. And now you've got a massive clock here for Bubbles. A massive wall to prevent damage from coming through. You're still out of Ring of Destruction range, so this is a pretty safe play. Really, you just got to worry about, like, Snatch Steal, potentially, here. End phase MST. It's going to hit that back row, which was a Sakuretsu armor, so you're pretty happy to hit that if you're Lady Command Knight. And now show me the Snatch Steal. Nope, just going to set a back row pass, and this could be close to the end of the game here. Bubble's going to get in for 23. Yep, and you're down all the way to 200 life points as Lady Command Knight. This Sork might just spell your doom here. You had a lot of interaction, but you had to make a couple plays that were, you had a really good start with the Pot, Graceful, Thunder Dragon, but you had to make a bunch of negative plays here with like Raigeki Break discarding a real card, torrentialing your own monsters, stuff like that. And now Turbo's just kind of out-advantaged you, and they've managed to stick a threat in. Things are looking a little bit rough, but you're not out of it just yet. Yeah, it looks like they just didn't have any action. Yeah, Heavy Storm plus the Shinato that we knew in hand. It's the unfortunate thing about these ritual decks. They can just brick sometimes with ritual cards. Double T-Drag, of course, in hand for Bubbles, but they had the Sork there to apply the pressure. And really back and forth game. Would have been cool to see kind of a more rogue strategy win here. But cool to see it get taken all the way to a 3-game match. Turbo taking down this Shinato Fairy Chaos conglomerate. Pretty cool deck. Excited to watch this one with you all today. And hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you next time.